course.
conversation. But all right, cool. I'll have it all
Good.
for you.
We just started. Awesome. We can do this, dude. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man. I've talked to a lot more boring people than you, dude, and people that do a lot less entertaining things for a lot longer. So,
You got to
I
be
think,
careful saying that publicly. Everyone's going to be asking themselves, is it me?
yeah,
Am I the
all
boring
10
person?
listeners, I'm sure they'll be all very upset.
Hey, you keep
Dude, what's
saying
going
that,
on,
but
man?
at some point it's going to be many, many listeners. Everything is good,
Yeah.
man. I'm here in Chiang Mai, Thailand right now.
Oh, you're in
You caught
Thailand. I thought you were in
me.
Japan.
I was in Japan
You were
before.
in Japan. Can you tell me about this from the beginning? When did you decide to do this trip, and what's been the process? What's going on? How long are you there for? What's happening? What?
Um, yeah, I'm here for another. I leave on February 11th back to New Jersey. Just to
Okay.
get. Oh, Effie, I have bad. I'm sorry. We don't have to talk about this on the mic, but I won't be making it to the bachelor party.
Oh man, really?
Yeah,
Oh
I'll.
man.
We'll talk about it after.
Okay,
Um,
no problem.
yeah,
We'll find it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it off mic. When did
but
you
I
get
am very.
there?
I'm really I'm like, yeah, just I, bad planning on my part. But anyway, I will be back for the wedding, and I'll be back. So February 11th is my flight. I get back. I guess the 12th or something. Or actually, the 11th in the evening, New York time. And I've got a a little bit more here to do. I'm in Chiang Mai now. I'll go to Bangkok to transfer over to Koh Tao. It's an island. Okay.
Cool.
Um,
Where is it?
do some
What
diving there.
what's there's what diving?
Yeah, I'm gonna get my open water certificate, so do some scuba diving.
Is that hard to do? To get your open water
No,
certificate?
no, very, very, no, very common, very amateur
Okay, I want to talk about
friendly.
all of it though. I want to hear about all of it. I want to talk about all of it. So when did you when were you there in how long are you how long are you traveling for? When did you leave?
I left December 10th. I
So
didn't
it's a
have
2 month
an
trip
exact idea
to
of when I'd get back, but my intention was to get back for Owens bachelor party.
gotcha.
But I thought maybe I'd get back sooner. I didn't really know. I was planning it on the go. But went to Japan. It was an amazing time. I spent a lot of time with some friends that I have from over the years. Two of
That live in
whom,
Japan or that traveled with you?
so two who live in Japan independently. They don't know each other, just in different circumstances in life. So I got to spend some time with each of them. A
Okay,
friend of
that's
mine
cool.
also joined, flew out in California. So I spent some time with him as well. Yeah, it was actually quite funny. There were a few people that just happened to be in Japan as well at the same time that I've
That's funny.
been friends with.
I feel like
Yeah,
that's not
just
very
bumping into.
likely. It
It doesn't seem very likely, right?
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't feel that way. But I don't know how many. I don't know how often the people that are in your circles hang out in Japan though. Like
Right.
I know that
Uh,
I know that people in my circles can never go there. So like the odds of running into someone like you're more likely to run into someone in Europe or something like that than or
it,
Panama or
they
South
were all actually
America.
from 42, from the school 42 that I went to, which is
Oh,
funny.
the coding
Um,
school.
yeah, except for one of them was a
Hello,
friend from the PCT. Uh,
the coding school.
yeah, it says reconnecting. Um, but one friend was from the PCT, and we did a pilgrimage hike together for 2 days.
Oh, gotcha. And what's Japan like? Wait, why'd you decide to go there? And what's it like there?
Let me tell you about Japan because I think
Okay,
you'll find it interesting.
I'm so interested to
And
hear.
yeah, I wish I had the perfect words, and I'm sure you could find an essay online that will put. I'm certain you can. I could even send you ones that I've read that put it into better words. But my experience was that Japan has a unique culture that I haven't experienced anywhere else. It's like intentionality and there's like intentionality and thought in every process, and such a deep appreciation for efficiency, doing things in the way that just makes the most sense.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like so. and there's such a strong social structure.
Yeah.
I don't know if structure is the right word. It's like there's such a strong sense of responsibility to the group that people
Is
are
there a very
really.
defined hierarchy in terms of like social construction and standards?
I think maybe traditional. I don't know that there's. I didn't. I couldn't tell you about that, but it's more like there are rules that are just well known socially, like you don't eat on the train, right? And that's not just a suggestion, right? You go on the New York subway, it says don't put your feet up. That's a suggestion in most people's eyes, like people are putting their feet up. And if
Mm-hmm.
someone puts their feet up, you're not really looking at the place. There,
Right.
it's like it says don't eat on the train. The train is spotless, like the cleanest. And these are metros that are carrying millions of travelers a day, the largest metro system, like one of the largest in the world, if not the largest,
Wow.
carrying millions of travelers a day, spotless. Like I'm talking, like you don't see a thing on the floor, no,
It's
not just
crazy.
like no crumbs, like no dirt. And and part of it is that, part of it is like the attention to detail that the cleaners have. And I watched a video on this, what's that, a video on YouTube of interviewing the people who clean the Tokyo metro trains and like the meticulous attention to detail. And it goes back to something else that's really common there, which is pride in one's work and pride in doing a job well done.
Nice.
And that is, again, like just such a deep respect for quality, intentionality. It's everywhere. And things are nice because of it. They have nice things because of these qualities. You have, like, just like, for example, the metro being clean, quiet, like people don't talk on there. And you find yourself subscribing to this. Even as a foreigner, you just automatically subscribe to this because it feels like it feels uncomfortable to violate. I opened, I was on the train for 3 hours. I was getting so hungry. I'm like, how harmful could it be if I have a protein bar, right? It's a protein bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached in and I pulled out my protein bar from my bag. And the train is like really quiet, really clean. Everyone's minding their own business. And I open the thing, and even opening it is like, I feel like, oh my God, I'm breaking all the laws, all the rules. And as soon as tear it open, it apparently had crumbled up in its packaging over my travels and just spilled all over the floor.
Oh no.
And I felt so stupid. Like it
Right.
wasn't like it wasn't like, oh, I'll just brush it aside or it's gonna blend right in. I felt so shameful, so stupid. And I just like in with my head down and tail between my legs, just picked up all the crumbs. And nobody looked at me, nobody said anything, but there was such a deep like sense of shame in me. And that came from just understanding like like how I just violated a social, and it was
Yeah.
amazing to see because like you'd think from the outside that you could like maybe not be affected by it. You think that you're so independent, but it's so easy to fall into that, and I could understand why it just persists once it exists. If anybody,
Do you think it's a
every
good
Japanese.
thing? Like, do you think
So
like
I think there's
it sounds
the
extreme.
it does sound extreme. There are pros and cons to it. I you're right. Like people talk about Japan having one of the highest suicide rates,
Oh, does it?
and yeah,
Okay.
and you'll have to back that up. You have to fact check that. You need to have
Yeah,
like
sure.
a. You
Yeah.
need to get somebody on this podcast who just does fact checking. But
It's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it is somewhat common knowledge that they have a high suicide rate. And the
Okay.
question is like why? If they have universal health care practically, they have really strong social structures, family ties, like people there aren't very many homeless. People are generally pretty well taken care of. Things are decently affordable. Um, Housing's available, and so it is a question. I don't have the answer, but I was I do like to pry a little bit when I visit a place to understand not just the surface, but What are the what are some of the challenges people are faced with? And one of the things that
Yeah.
my friend Shinya was telling me is that I was asking like what are some of his qualms with Japan? And he basically only really had one thing to say, which is that people work too hard. There's a really strong work ethic there. Like people work themselves too hard, is what he was saying.
You think they'll
It's
work
like
themselves to the point that they feel like there's no individuality or self-expression to their lives, and that's what makes them unhappy?
I think that might like it might all be interconnected in some
Yeah.
regard when you feel so like it's true. Like people are very much like feel have the head space of being a part of the crowd. People feel like they're part of the crowd, like they are one of the. Now, Japan's weird though too because they have a lot of like weird, kinky, like alternative subcultures and that people fall into, but that like it's not something that's very loud. Like you have a lot of like I think behind. I think there's a lot of suppression of self there, public suppression, and then people find ways to maybe
Is
express themselves privately.
right, right,
But they have
right,
like
right.
uh, I don't know. I mean, I didn't do a case study. I was just there for a
You
few
don't have to do
weeks,
it.
and
I'm just asking about your,
yeah,
experience and your observation,
yeah,
just from being there. And like, I literally know nothing about Japan. I know nothing about the landscape. I know nothing about the geography. I know nothing about the people. I know nothing about the culture. I know
okay.
like that's why I'm so interested in it because I literally,
I'll tell
I
you
know
some more
nothing
than
about it.
just some like
Yeah.
simple stuff. The first few nights I was there were tremors like multiple times. Like apparently, Japan has an earthquake every couple minutes, and that's just normal.
What?
Yeah. So it's, but not most of them are not. You can't feel them. Happens to be the few that were that those few days you can feel them a lot, but typically you don't feel them unless you're right over them. Just a lot of minor earthquakes because the Japan is on a
Where's Japan as well?
bunch of it's on a bunch of fault lines. The benefit to that though is that they have so many hot springs, and so they have these onsen. They're called onsen, which are public bathhouses typically fed with, or traditionally fed with hot spring water. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
some of them now are not. Maybe some of them now are heated, but either way, the culture of the onsen is all over the country, and you can just find a public bathhouse with hot baths and saunas, and usually there's a
No
restaurant
way. That's
attached
so
to
cool. Really?
the
And do they
point
take
where there
advantage
was
of that? Is that like part of the culture? Like everyone goes
yes,
to
very
it?
much 100%. And
Oh, I love it.
there, I went to a bunch. One of them I went to was in a train station, and it was beautiful, like really luxurious,
No
extremely
way.
clean. Just like while I'm waiting for the train, I sat for because I was out in this small town, Chichibu, sat in a beautiful hot spring in the train station. And the thing is, this is one of those pros of the super strong um, social structure, which is that there are these rules of engagement in the
Hmm.
onsen, such as how one should bathe themselves beforehand and clean
Yeah.
their
Oh,
body
really? Like
and behave
to maintain the
to
place and
maintain.
to make sure it doesn't get disgusting.
And people keep it, people abide it, people follow it to the T. And it's not like every place has their own rules. Like there is just a social understanding that's just it's like ingrained in the society how one engages with public bathhouses.
You think all this kind of stems from like tradition and religion and like like older culture that just continues to be respected and prevalent, or do you think that it's more of like a political consequence? Because like I feel like, COVID, for example, kind of created this kind of environment of everyone trying to do their best, especially at the beginning, to just try to be safe and like do the right thing, right? But it was more because of a medical emergency that was kind of contrary to like what they were used to. And then like you have people that like old like us Eastern European Jewish families or whatever that have such an old tradition and hierarchy that the in the community and the family that like the way that people just do things is just the way they do things because they've done it for so long. Is that you think that it's more of You think it's more of like deeply rooted, or you think it's more just like something that just that came up because of an alternative reason?
I think it's actually because they were cut off from the rest of the world, or at least partly because they were cut off from the rest of the world for so long. Uh,
Why were they cut off from the
just
rest of the
Googled it
world?
real quick. Between 1603 and 1868, so
Yeah,
265 years, they were essentially in like an isolationist. They had an isolationist foreign policy where they did no foreign trade. They had a closed borders, and so everything was just percolating
no
in their
way.
boundaries. And they're
So
relatively, I mean, they're not
interesting.
tiny, but they're a relatively small country. But that created a very, like, um, yeah, a very, like, singular culture
Identity, yeah, yeah.
identity.
So
And
cool.
there wasn't a lot of mixing of ideas and new ideas. Here's the
They
thing,
spent
though,
as
is they
much time as
also,
America. They spent as much time being closed as America spent as a country existing, almost. It's
yeah, yeah. And this
crazy.
is, and they had like what's the Edo era, I think, and they had the yeah, during the Edo period. And so they have all these ideas, and these, like, I think it's all just this mixture of things together make it so that it's a very, like, a very, mm, I don't want to say single-minded, but collective. Like, the ideas are shared among everybody. And here's the other thing, though, is that they're also very quick to adapt and to do things better. So when they discover that there's a better way to do things, everyone gets on board with it like immediately.
No way.
And that,
That's so cool. Well, I guess that kind of
yeah,
comes from following rules mentality. Is that like once you're following a rule, how hard is it to sub in one rule for another without like an enormous amount of pushback?
right. Like they're
Does,
not. I don't think they're attached to the rules themselves or the ways of doing things. They're very. They seem very attached to doing it like their neighbor does it. And so,
that's
like,
so
their
interesting.
technology, like the way they operate, they're very quick and efficient. So what I've also heard from someone who's from China is that they aren't necessarily very innovative in creating new inventions, but they're very quick to adapt to new innovations. And
Right.
that is something I don't know about the first part. I couldn't speak to that, but I could say that they are very, they seem, it felt to me like they were the modern day version of like 1950s America. Like everything was
Right.
just everything was just so convenient. Like heated toilet seats, like wonderful, like efficient bathrooms.
So
The
you
train
love spending
system.
time there. You really enjoy it.
Yes, I did. I really did.
So what was the
It's
purpose of you going
very
there?
pleasure. Like it's a very wonderful place to spend time, especially
Especially a
as a
month.
traveler.
I
Especially a
feel like there's
month,
not a
right?
lot of
Especially as a
places you could spend.
traveler, where
Yeah.
I'm only really interacting with like the results, the consequences of the culture. I'm not really like a part of the culture. So any of those downsides, I don't feel. Of course, that's a privileged position, but yeah, the consequences of their culture are like phenomenal. It's very, very comfortable, efficient, convenient is like probably the best word to describe. So everything's so convenient. Vending machines on almost every street corner with hot or cold coffee and a bunch of different options there. Seven
So
Elevens
cool.
also
How come
almost on
America
every
doesn't
street
integrate
corner.
these things? Or
I
try to? I
don't
guess you
know.
have to I feel like you have to sacrifice a lot of like the American spirit to get
No, you
everyone to be
don't.
on board.
You don't have to sacrifice anything, but you do need to have a society that's not. If you can't worry that someone's going to be breaking into your vending machines on the random street corner, right? There's like
Yeah.
a very low crime rate. You can
Yeah.
leave your bike out in Tokyo, one of the most
Are they very
densest
strict
popu-
about are they very strict about enforcing the rules? Like are they communist in that sense? Like China almost or whatever?
I, my understanding is no. My understanding is it's primarily social pressure,
Right.
but I don't know.
This probably works better, by the way. It's so interesting. I was, I was just in terms of like trying to get more efficient, and effective results. I feel like social pressure probably works better on people than like threats of punishment. I'm gonna like. I think that people like self correct a lot better if they know it's in their best interest to self correct, and with the threat of like some shadowy authority telling you like, I'm gonna punish you if you do this, like
Hmm.
I feel like that's probably why it doesn't work in America, because like people are like, okay, well, like, what's the worst that could happen, but I go to jail, okay, fine, but or I usually get away with it, but if you feel like the social pressure, like, you're able to like, you can't get community, you can't get friends, you can't get like anyone to support you or to work with you, then people probably people self-censor or or behave a lot better in general, probably because of that.
Yeah, America's a cowboy culture. Like, we're out here, we're out. We sailed across the ocean. I mean, not us, of course, but like it's in our DNA. Like, we've sailed across the ocean. We're already doing something quite contrarian, and the whole. I think the American culture, the American ideology is very contrarian. Like, we're as an individual, we're very individualistic out there. We're trying to pursue our own happiness. We're trying to achieve something of ourselves. It's push the boundaries. We got the whole West Coast is like the result of people pushing the limits of to
Yeah.
try and find something, to try and discover something, and that's why we have Silicon Valley. That's why we have that's why we've been so
Do you,
wildly successful in like innovation. But it doesn't. It doesn't like by our very nature, we're not really about the collective. We're not. We don't really care for the collective.
it's so interesting because I feel like just, I guess metaphorically, or just I didn't even know the necessarily the right word for it, but like you keep on pushing philosophically, you keep on pushing west, and then you end up all the way back east again, right? The further like the further you get west, like it gets crazy, 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 cowboy, 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 and then you end up all the way west to California. You keep on going west. You want to keep on pushing the limits. You end up back at the beginning of it, back in the Far East, geographically. And I feel like, I mean, I wonder if like the culture will eventually evolve, because especially like America's so young. It's so young for young people to be cowboys, like that, But then like as you mature and as you get older, the individual kind of turns into a collective, as you have a family, and as like as you kind of build a community or develop, then you stop worrying about yourself as an individual so much, and you start thinking about us as a whole.
I don't know
um
about that though necessarily. I mean, look at the way America is built. We have these suburbs of like, I mean, I think that the average American family lives in isolation. They
in
spend
isolation with their family, though, like
with
meaning
their
they don't
family, but
live.
not with a community, not with their extended family, but with their immediate, the husband, the wife, the two kids, and the dog. They see each other all the time, and then that's it. Like, not even their extended
I think that's
family.
more
This is
modern. I think that's more in the last 20 years than previously. and i
It's been
f- and
happening since the like you could look at when they started establishing these development projects, and like, I don't remember
Where in
exactly when it
America?
was, but and it's like the expansion, um the expansion from the cities, when people left started leaving the cities, moving to the suburbs. I think that was when the when it
Yeah, but
started.
I think a lot more of suburbs have community than we think. And I think that as like someone who, like, if you have the two houses, the two family, like right now, what stops people, I think, from being a little bit more community oriented is probably technology. And probably because we spent the last 5 years, which is really crucial amount of time for, especially for developing, teenagers or kids or young adults. We kind of spent the last 5 years in isolation, that kind of, forced us to take steps back towards being afraid of interacting with other people. Like we don't, like people still don't like to be in large crowded community spaces, since COVID. And I mean, but I don't know if that was like like if you look at the if you look at the early 2000s or late 90s, I think there was enormous there's enormous emphasis on community. And you go to your son's like little league game, and you're friends with the parents from the little league game, and you guys all know one another, and then you go to work, and Like I think that there are social. I think there are definitely social, like a community social values, but I think that technology kind of made it a little bit less. We didn't need it. Like we feel connected because like, oh, I could just call him or I could just text him from here. But there's not a lot of emphasis on embodied experiences, which is weird.
Yeah, one all I could say is that I've had many conversations with people about my age, so maybe it's younger people who have
Yeah,
expressed that they feel like they lack
community.
community. They feel like they lack
Definitely, dude. I think, yeah,
connection.
yeah. But also, what'd you say?
Yeah.
I think that but I think that these are things that require effort. I don't think people are used to that. Like, I think that we didn't grow up at a point where like you have to where like you see someone in the supermarket and you just say hello, how's your day going, just because it's a nice thing to do. Like, and when you're not raised to do that, it becomes a very daunting task. Like, being being social, especially when it comes to strangers, and especially we're constantly being taught that strangers are a threat. They could kidnap you. Drug dealers, there's rapists, there's all these crazy. You have to be careful about who you're talking to, and who you look at, and don't make eye contact because they could be a crazy person, and like
So
we
let's
spend.
talk for a second about the importance of travel for combating this because
Yes.
it's incredibly, in my mind, travel is important for many reasons. Not
Hmm.
always easy, but I think important. And one of
Right.
the reasons is this. I cannot tell you how many conversations I've had with strangers, even just tonight. I sat down by myself in the Sunday market, so many people. It's very easy to feel lost and like a stranger there. I sat
Hmm.
down by myself. I was listening to music, eating my chicken with my hands. It was a great time. And
Were you listening with headphones in?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
um, I've been listening to Extreme. I've been having a really good time discovering them.
I don't know who Extreme is.
It's
What kind of music are they? Do they play?
rock and roll, I guess.
Nice. I'll check them out.
I think you'll like them.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll check them out. Yeah. So you're sitting
Listen
here eating chicken with
to,
your
I mean,
hands.
More Than Words is like, I think their really popular song is More Than Words, and I have a story for that. Actually, it's related to this, so I'll share that story in a
I
moment.
want to hear
Yeah,
it.
so it's about this. It's just about like you have these spontaneous. So some girl from Korea, South Korea, asked if she can sit at the table, and I had headphones and I didn't even hear her. I just saw her like motioning toward the chair, and I said, "Sure, have a seat." And then offered her some of my chicken, and she took a bite. We started chatting, and
She
we
did.
spent. Yeah, she took a she took a
Wait,
piece, and
do you consider that odd, or are you happy that it happened?
100% happy it happened. And this is kind of what I'm saying is like I was with zero expectations, just thought in my mind it would be kind of humorous to offer her and kind to offer her some of my chicken because she sat down at my table.
Right.
And
It's a polite
I'm
thing to do.
learning it's polite and it's kind of, and I was in a silly mood, so it was funny, and I just did it without hesitation, that's actually been kind of a something I'm learning on this trip is just to like act on these impulses when the negative consequences are nil.
Okay.
They're just like there's just only upside. Like the upside is she finds it funny. She has a piece of chicken. We share in a meal. The downside is she says no. She
Yeah.
finds it a little bit uncomfortable. She gets up and walks away. But like there was no intention. There was no expectation from it. It was purely just like a thought that crossed my mind. I thought it would be open up something, open up a conversation, open up and laugh. Like, and that's what it did. I mean, we started chatting and we hung out for a little bit, and that was it. Fine. It was
She spoke
friendly.
English?
I Yeah, she spoke fine English. We had like now I have a new friend from Korea and
Yeah.
like somebody that I was able to walk around and talk with for the evening. And there's nothing more that comes from that comes of it. There's nothing more that needs to come from it. It was purely just a like interaction with another human being from another part of the
And how
world,
good does it feel, dude?
and it feels great. For her, it was also like she could have been afraid to ask to sit at that table, or she could have been afraid to take a bite of the chicken, but she just fully embraced it. And because of that, we got to share this experience.
It's awesome.
And
I love that.
yeah, that's been this trip. Like I cannot, there have been days where had 2 hour conversations back to back with different strangers in different places. Like I'd get up, go to the cafe, sit down for breakfast.
It's crazy you're
Somebody
not a
else that's
journalist, dude. Like it's so crazy because you what I feel like what it takes to be a good journalist is be able to talk to people and also not having anything to tie you down from stopping you from traveling any way you want to write to report on that place. You know,
Mm,
and like I'm doing everything from from my phone and from my house, but like, you could do really really incredible work if you have nothing you really have nothing holding you back from really getting as investigative as you can be, and like just into the just like really really in the dirt and just like really
I've I've
like
truly thought about it. One of my two of my biggest inspirations on the internet, Chris Anarde walks the world. He does this. He'll show up to a city and he walks for
like I don't know
100
why.
miles or yeah. Well, maybe we could talk more about it, like brainstorm what that would look like because I think if I had a I'm curious about it, but the lack of structure I think would makes
Wait,
me a
Yosef,
little
one
bit
second. Yosef,
intimidated.
my app is acting up. I'm gonna leave the room for a second. I'll be back in 1 second. Okay.
Okie doke. It's a whole
Sorry about
new.
that. We're back. What?
It's a whole new recording.
Uh, I mean, it'll be. I'll splice them together, but yeah, same thing.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so what you were saying? I apologize. I don't know what happened.
Um,
You're talking about all these. You're talking about your inspirations, the people that walk to towns or walk to cities.
yeah. Chris Anarde Walks the World is one of my inspirations here. He's really cool. He just walks and documents his journey. I like that kind of journalism where people take some sort of journey. I find myself doing that in my life, but the books and journalists who inspire me are oftentimes adventurers in some regard. They
Right.
take long walks or bike rides or do something that gives as an excuse really to see and learn more about the world. And I find myself doing that constantly. I mean, that's just how I travel as well. I walk a lot and take the random alley and have discovered, I think, a
Right.
lot through that. Um,
I think there's
so
something. I think there's something so valuable about it. By the way, I think there's something so valuable about like really walking through something and experiencing it. And I think that embodied experiences where like you're in person and like you're you're completely immersed, just is a totally different experience that I don't think you can really substitute anything for. And we try to come up with substitutes and other excuses, but I don't think there's anything quite just like going and being there and actually walking and being in the midst of the entire world and just being swallowed by all of it. I think it's awesome.
no, yeah, there's no substitute. I
Mm-mm.
can't tell you how many interactions that have left a deep imprint on me have just been the result of pausing for a moment while walking down the street or turning and smiling. And here's a story for you. I I just finished a meditation retreat, 7-day meditation retreat where I
Yes, I
learned
want to hear
about
about that. Did you
uh,
go with the intention of doing this retreat, or this retreat popped up while you were already there?
so that's the story for you. Be patient for
Okay,
a second.
sorry.
Okay, here here it is. I had no intention of doing it. I had no intention of I knew years ago that I was interested in doing something like this, but in like a curious way, right? In the same way that I'm curious to maybe take a course on Thai massage because then I can learn more about the body and what they're doing and I like getting a Thai massage. I'd be curious to learn more about what that is, but not that I want to be a Thai masseuse. Um, so I think that was the same with meditation. I knew there was something interesting there. I wanted to understand what people were talking about and see if maybe there was something for me in it. And I guess just like been a very novice meditator, and after a yoga class in my shavasana, I can do a little meditation, but I didn't quite know what meditation. Now I know that I didn't quite know what meditation is, and it turns out
Okay.
it's even simpler than I thought. But before jumping the gun, how I got to this meditation retreat is is an act of it's like serendipitous in this way that we're talking. So oftentimes in the morning, I'll go on a walk wherever I am. It's a good way to get my juices flowing, find some inspiration. You never know what opportunities are going to show up. brings a smile to my face. I think it's like really important for me to always take a walk before making any big decisions or before trying to like collect myself in the morning. Um, so I did that in Pi. I was in Pi, and it was December 31st, day after my birthday. I was actually just woke up like maybe a little bit bummed. I just spent um birthday not I mean by my own doing alone in a foreign place and in a pretty grimy hostel. And so it wasn't exactly like the most thrilling like
You're 28 now?
birthday. 28 now, yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But no, I mean it was fine. I just was I guess maybe missing friends and family a little bit. And
It's the birthday
so I
blues,
went on a
dude.
yeah, the birthday blues. I wanted to be around the people I love, and I was surrounded by strangers.
You're a stranger in a strange land.
Stranger in a strange land.
You can't escape it. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I took this walk, and as I was walking back past this cafe, this woman was leaving and she's saying goodbye to somebody that she must have been speaking with. And they exchanged names, and he said his name is whatever, and she goes, my name is Jenny. I can't remember her actual name. And then she walked out, and I was walking by, and her cadence and my cadence matched up. And so we were walking at the same pace next to each other for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
And so I had that impulse then that I spoke about having tonight as well with the chicken. And I just turned to her and said, "Nice to meet you, Jenny." And using her real name,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
again forgot. She looked over at me and a smile came on her face. She got a kick out of it and she goes, "Nice to meet you." And then we spoke for like maybe 5 minutes, if even, just walking down the street until we both parted ways.
Yeah.
Her going straight, me going left. But before we parted, I learned two things about her. She's from New Zealand and she was heading to a meditation retreat for New Year's.
Okay.
And that second part is what really intrigued me, but I didn't get the chance to, or didn't, yeah, I didn't get the chance to dig deeper and get more information out of her before we parted ways. But when we did part, I thought to myself, man, that sounds awesome. I would love to do a meditation retreat for New Year's. I was contemplating what I would do. There were all these signs for parties in and out of town, but I wasn't really drawn to that. I didn't feel like going to a psych trance. So, and I don't know, going to a bar, it just wasn't speaking to me, but I did want something more meaningful. So the idea of going to a meditation was really appealing. So I looked up trying to find some meditate. I couldn't remember the name of the place she was going to, which I now know is Pai Pei, but I couldn't remember at the time.
Okay.
And and I found that there's a meditation center on Google Maps just outside of town. So I walked over there and there was nothing. Like it was completely empty. I figured, okay, I guess this place is shut down.
How
So I went
far
back.
is to walk? When you say you're walking these places, you're walking around. These are all you're like a big city area, and you're just everything's just walking
No,
distance from you, or
this
it's
is
far.
Pai, which is a small mountain town. It's about 3 hours northwest of, yeah, 3 hours northwest of Chiang Mai.
Okay.
And it's a mountain town. It's really special. It's a really wonderful place. I don't know what it is about Pi exactly uh, that does this, but it captures people. Like people will go there for a few days and stay there for 3 weeks, a month. That's what happened to me. Stay there for
Okay.
3 weeks. It
So
has
cool.
everything you need. It's a lot of community, a lot of events, really good food. It's very affordable. It's beautiful weather. It's beautiful scenery. It's small enough that you get to like really find a lot of travelers. It's just like a real happy people. Checks the boxes. I don't know. It's very spiritual but you can also find parties and it's just like and it's managed to like a commercialism hasn't reached there, so it's still not very commercial. It feels very homegrown, mom and pop. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a good place.
It
So
sounds
there
awesome.
I was walking
But it's
around
a
and
small town.
small town.
Okay.
It expands though. I mean, so the meditation center, for example, is 3.5 miles outside of the center of town. And I
Right.
stayed at a hostel, but everybody goes there. You rent a little scooter, and then you can get around no problem.
Right. Awesome.
A moped. So
A
that
moped.
meditation's
Do you rock the
what?
moped? Do you rock the moped culture?
Oh, I do. I can send you a
I bet you
video.
do, dude. I want to see a
Yeah.
video. I love it. It makes me happy to think about, actually. Just your
Oh
hair
yeah.
flying in the wind in the moped,
That's
traveling
exactly
up and
it.
down the
That's
roads. Are
that's the
these
video.
how developed is this town? Does it look extremely modern, or
There's
is it
no no, it's
no?
very not like if you've ever been to some of the more suburban, like rural areas in Mexico, it reminded me of that.
Oh, it's got a similar landscape to Mexico.
I don't know about the landscape necessarily. Up here was the mountains, just the way things are built.
Okay,
Things are very like you have a lot of huts, you have mud huts, you have cinder block huts, you have dirt roads, you have just things are like kind of mm, put together to be functional. Um, like you'll find the best restaurant, like some of the best restaurants in town are down a bumpy dirt road across the river
awesome.
in,
I love that.
inside somebody's
That's what I was kind of
house.
hoping that you would say. By the way, I had like this
Yeah,
romantic idea in my head, and I'm so happy you validated that because if it was just like a cold metal like box city, I'd be sad.
no,
Or
it's
town.
that. But there's also, I mean, you have the little walking street which has normal shops and everything, but it's very, again, very not commercial. You have a ton of hostels, but everything's very unique and put together in a way that is like representative of the hands that built it.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Okay, so
it's awesome.
I
Okay, so anyway, so you're going. Yes, you're going to this
couldn't
retreat.
find the meditation center. It wasn't active. Went back to Google and saw that there was the Pi International Meditation Center about 3.5 miles outside of town, and they happened to be having a meditation, a public free meditation, candle lighting, and lantern release that night for the New Year's
Cool.
at 6 p.m.
Have you done a lantern
No,
release before
5.
this?
I don't. I think I've done it once.
Okay.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. I just don't
Really?
know
I was
where all
about to
those
ask.
lanterns.
I feel like you'd remember that. And like, what was your experience with it?
Yeah, I just don't like where are all those lanterns going, right? Laying in a field somewhere.
Right. Okay. That checks out. Okay.
Um, but I couldn't get there, right? I didn't have my moped yet. I didn't exactly know. But then I recalled that there were these signs around town for one of those big parties. It's like electric music that I didn't want to go to, but they were offering shuttle services to the party, and the party happened to be a mile down the road from where the meditation center is.
No way.
So I figured, so I figured if I just take that cab, that
I
shuttle
love you,
there, I could
dude.
just walk.
Okay. Yeah.
So I went to town. I went back to I went to the cab stand and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for the shuttle to the party." I said, because there's an unbelievable amount of Israelis there. They just assume everyone's Israeli. So she goes, Achi, wait, 15, Achi, wait. So I waited
No
15
way.
minutes and this is yeah, it's Hebrew is a second language in Pi.
Is it
Um,
really?
I think it's the most common not Thai language. Like I think
More than
before
English.
English, I think you hear
Wow.
I think you hear more Hebrew than English. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
So I waited 15 minutes, 20 minutes, the cab didn't come. I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna just wait around. Like I'm gonna be more proactive. I know it's a 3.5 mile walk. It'll take me an hour and a half, but and the meditation begins in 20 minutes, but I'm at least gonna just I'm gonna start walking and see what comes of it. So I start walking down the street there, and it's the walking street, so cars have to drive quite slowly. There's a lot of people, and there's one of those safari trucks with that takes tourists out to
Hmm.
different scenic points. One of them being Two Huts, another one being Pie Canyon. So I see it driving slowly down the street, and I'm just maybe 30 feet behind it. And I yell at the two passengers in the back. I'm like, "Hey, can I join you?" And they say, "Sure." So I ran up and jumped into the back
Sure.
with them.
Okay.
Uh, and I jumped in the back, and the driver never knew. He never found out. I jumped out before he even stopped and went on my way. But I asked them where they're going, and they said two huts. I said, cool, I don't know where that is. Let me check. I went on my phone, saw that it was like 2 miles from where I needed to go, or a mile and a half. I'm like, all right, cool. That gets me closer at least, and we'll see how far I can get. So I stayed in for the ride. It was a nice, fun ride. Chatted with them for a bit, and then jumped out when they pulled into the Two Huts parking lot, which Two Huts is it's like a beautiful overlook, um, a beautiful like sunset spot with a cafe,
And what time of
some
day is
two.
this?
So this is like 4:45 p.m.
PM. So
Yeah,
you're catching sunset there now.
catching sunset.
Nice. Okay.
And yeah, the meditation begins in 15 minutes. So I walk out to the road, back to the road there, and throw my thumb. I start walking and I throw my thumb out to hitchhike. A couple people pass me, and then an Israeli girl actually pulls over on her scooter, asks me where I'm going. I told her the meditation center. She said, unfortunately, I'm turning before that to go to Dreamscape, which I had never heard of, but learned about since, and it was a nice part. I actually went there later, but
What
so
is it? It's a
she
park?
drives the. It's like a artists venue. They had an ecstatic dance and a bunch of had a little festival for New Year's Eve. It's
That's
very cool.
cool.
I went there. Yeah, I ended up going there after the meditation. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, nice. Okay. Okay.
Hitchhiked my way there
Wait,
too.
this meditation wasn't the 7 day retreat. This is just a different meditation
No,
room.
this is just. I know we're going all over the place, but
No, I love it. I'm curious. Yeah.
this
I
was
love hearing
just
this.
a New Year's Eve event.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So she says
So
I'm turning before then, but I could start taking you down the road.
no, then she drives away without me.
Oh,
And
okay.
then turns around though, like, like 30 seconds later, I see her turning around and she pulls back up and she goes, what the heck, I can drive you. It's not that much further. It's like an extra 2 minutes for her. So I
Yeah.
hop in the back, she drives me there, drops me off. It's wonderful. So I show up at the Pi International Meditation Center. And right away, I knew this place was special. It was so peaceful, so beautiful, so beautiful. The landscaping, the energy of the space. I'm a skeptical person. Like I don't feel like I'm super easy to impress in that way. I was just immediately like just felt this wave of calm take over me. The sun was setting down behind the mountains, and they had this whole event, this whole like this beautiful grass area with a bunch of chairs set up. Um, and then Extreme was playing. That's how I discovered Extreme. So they were,
Ah, nice. Yeah.
yeah,
Full circle. It's
yes,
smoking
exactly.
gun. If it appears in the first act, it's got to appear in the closing act. Okay.
Yeah, and on the speakers is More Than Words is playing by Extreme, and it's just so beautiful. I walk in, I meander about for a few minutes, and then sit down. We have the meditation, which is led by the monks, the Buddhist monks, and a nice speech by them, followed by a meditation where I really felt amazing, and I felt like
When
a
they
lot of
speak, they were speaking in English?
the monk was speaking so there were two monks speaking, one in broken English and then another one in Thai, translated by another monk into perfect English.
Gotcha. And was it mostly English speaking crowd? How many people were there?
Yeah, most people speak English in general. Like when you travel, I find that like almost every English is
Or
the like
broken
the
English is.
neutral.
Yeah.
It's the neutral language. Yeah.
Right. Right. And how many people were there?
Actually, far less than they had chairs set out for,
Okay.
which I wondered, like, yeah, if they expected more, but maybe 20 to 30 people.
Okay. Very nice.
And the meditation was amazing. Like, I felt so much gratitude, forgiveness. Like, just felt really
You felt yourself giving forgiveness or receiving forgiveness?
giving forgiveness.
Is that something that you
Like,
wanted to do? Is that like on your
I
mind?
don't, there were things on my mind. Um, and then new things entered my mind. And
I
I
can
just felt
imagine.
myself not even like not intentionally going for the forgiveness, but think like just feeling this sense of forgiveness, like this sense of
Like
like
letting go.
empathy, letting go, understanding, non-attachment, releasing the yeah, like
It's so beautiful to
releasing.
experience that.
Yeah, yeah, it was, and I knew that there was something special there. And so I spoke after, and we did the candle lighting, the lantern release, very beautiful, fun. I spoke afterwards to the hostess. She spoke perfect English. She was hosting the event. So I just approached her and like inquired a little bit about their meditation retreats. I wasn't sure if I would do it, but I wanted to have some information.
Hmm.
And that was it. When I left, I went to the Dreamscape, danced a bunch,
What was that
whatever.
like?
Honestly, like I was like, if I could have done the meditation retreat all night, that would have been better. Meditation, like it was very fun. Don't get me wrong, but I think I don't know. It was a lot of fun. But,
Okay, I'll take your
yeah.
word for it. Yeah.
Well, dancing, ecstatic dance is great. A lot of cool
What's
people, a lot
ecstatic
of fun
dance?
people.
That's what is that?
It's like free flow, alcohol free, drug free, free for all dancing around, in this case, around a fire pit. It was really, like,
I
really,
feel
really
like you
fun.
need.
But
I feel like you need to have the setup of conformity to or like that mindset to like really be comfortable doing something like that. You know, where like you don't care what everyone around you think, and like if everyone else is like buying into the same idea that they're all going to do this and not going to feel insecure about it. I feel like it requires that everyone buys into it, right?
I guess like anything.
Uh, Yeah, I know, but you can
Yeah,
have like
you
let's say you go
subscribe
to
to it.
let's say yeah, but if not everyone did subscribe, then let's say you'd have X amount of people dancing, X amount of people not, and that kind of takes away from the environment where when people aren't, why aren't they dancing? Is it me? Is it something about what I'm doing? Is it weird? Is it like I think that when everyone pitches in and when everyone's participating, then it kind of removes any kind of potential uh, anything that would hinder you from like fully experiencing it. You know?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, and ecstatic dance is kind of a dogmatic thing. Like they exist all over. It's kind of a cult. It's kind of like there's kind of like an ideology behind it. You show up, like there are some rules of engagement,
Oh,
but
really?
otherwise the dance, just no alcohol. There's really only a few rules. No alcohol, no drugs, no like unsolicited touch. Like you
Okay.
have to respect what somebody. You have to ask before dancing with somebody or touching. But
Yeah,
that's really
that's
it.
good.
And then there's like the last one would just be like there's no right or wrong way to dance. Like some people are actually just jumping up and down, howling. Some people are rolling around on the floor. Some people are dancing
No
like
way. That's
pretty nicely.
crazy.
And then people do oftentimes do contact dancing where they're dancing with each other. People end up getting really sexual at times and really intimate. It's really just like a wild party in that way.
Kind of sounds
I've been to many.
like a Grateful Dead concert. Honestly, like that's how a lot
Honestly,
of people would describe it, except
yeah, it's
for the
probably
no drugs part.
right. I was gonna say it's probably like that minus the drugs.
But I feel like yeah, there wasn't a kind of you don't. I'm so curious. You don't experience like I feel like a lot of people would need like something to take the edge off to like engage in intimate behavior in public, you know? And
Actually, so that was why I was a little hesitant to like the reservation I was feeling. This time I was feeling that. I was feeling a bit anxious. Part of it is it's much easier when you're with people you know because then you have people to like lock eyes with, you have people to dance with, you have but showing up in a room like a space of complete strangers. Um, and it's such a vulnerable thing to like dance like that, to be in that space feels very vulnerable.
yeah,
And I guess because I know that there are certain rules of engagement, I don't know. Like I felt very, at times I was completely free and dancing my heart out, jumping up and down, sweating, like making contact with other people. But then there was other moments where I just felt like a real stranger and got quite anxious and insecure. So it
right.
was a mixed bag this time.
Did you were you able to snap yourself out of it, or when that anxiety kicked in, did that just remain with you? Like what was that process like?
Mm, sometimes I just danced it through it, and then I guess at some point I just realized like it's my night has reached its end. Like for
Yeah,
me, I stayed till midnight and then realized that like for me,
yeah,
I at this point, like I didn't feel like I was going to recollect like my energy. I don't stay out like really late typically anyway, and usually my energy is drained. So like, I knew that without there any external factors, without being around friends, without having drugs or alcohol, without there being anything else, like I didn't feel like I was going to gather that energy just from being in the space anymore.
yeah. I got
Um,
that. I gotcha. So then you
but I
decided to
give
do
it a
this retreat.
shot usually. Like I like it because it's like I get to experiment. Like
I think it's
I
amazing
don't
that you do, by the way, because it's really gutsy. It's really ballsy. I try. I consider myself one of the more outgoing people that I know, like that like interactive people that like interacts with the world around them. But I'm a far cry from you know even what it took for you to get from the town to the ceremony and then the dance thing. Like there's no way I would have ended up there. Like there's too many steps along the way that would have required me to be too uncomfortable. You know?
There was a lot of that, a lot of discomfort, a lot of just being vulnerable. Like I got to the party also by hitching, just standing at the top of the road and asking people if I can have a ride.
Yeah.
Um, and
Is
like
that
just
part of is that more
trusting.
part of the culture there, like more
No,
than
I haven't seen
America?
anybody else hitchhike. Like I've tried. I mean, I think it's probably more so just by the amount of people who are traveling because they're more receptive to things like that. But I haven't seen many people hitchhike, and I've tried a few times since and haven't successfully hitchhiked. Like I've walked to and from the meditation center, the 3.5 miles each, to with my bag, just because like nobody would pick me up.
Right.
I threw my thumb the whole time. But yeah, putting yourself out there, it's hard. It's important, I think, especially when you're traveling and you're traveling solo. And um, I think I'm somewhat familiar with the process at this point. That I
Yeah,
trust
I guess
myself. I
I guess
trust.
right, right. It's funny because I think that these anxieties and insecurities are more about like you just imagine like a worst case scenario or a untold future that like you don't know that you're necessarily prepared for. But like once you do it often enough, then you realize that you have the tools to be able to actually go through with that behavior. Like you trust yourself yeah, if you do something often enough, you start to trust yourself with that unknown and that particular you know I guess aspect of your life. you know
Hmm. Yeah,
that's so
yeah.
interesting. Okay, so the retreat.
So yeah, then the next few days I started thinking about it. I went back to check out the place again, and I signed up for it.
And they always they're always doing 7-day retreats or
They're doing five
weekends.
days, 7 days. They do them at different times. So the timing just worked out really nicely. I waited a few days in Pi, and then the next retreat began. Um, and it was really, really, I think transformative for me is the right word. It opened my eyes to a very simple idea that I think we all know about, and it's quite intuitive, but they facilitated like a real experiential learning around inner happiness, or as they call true happiness. And this is the real, like the big idea in Buddhism, is that happiness comes from within. And that sounds like, I think it's been repeated so many times that it sounds like a cliche. But what they're talking about is not just that you need to like do the work to be happy.
Wait, philosophically, can you explain their difference between happiness and satisfaction?
Hmm.
In
Um,
terms of like the retreat or like what how do they define happiness? Like what's that
yeah.
sensation that they
So
describe?
yeah. So the difference would be, so true happiness, as they describe it, is happiness that comes from oneself. And that meaning the source of the happiness is internal, not an external circumstance, not an external influence. Um,
Right.
it's an internal.
Sensation.
So true happiness is sourced internally. And so when you feel happiness, it's something that's within you always, right? I give you, I give you, like you might be feeling happy right now because we're having this conversation, right? Who wouldn't? Now, that happiness is being felt internally, but the source of it is like out of your control. And just as easy as like you can be happy because of this conversation, but if I were to hang up on you right now, you'd potentially be unhappy. And so that happiness is not sourced internally, it's sourced externally. And just
It's
as much as I
contingent
can
on
make
another factor. It's contingent on an
it's
external factor,
dependent,
right?
there's a dependency, right? And so if something can make you unhappy or happy, then it's external, right?
Right.
So you can have a nice car, classic example, you get a nice car, you're happy. You crash the nice car, you're unhappy.
Okay. Yeah.
Internal happiness would be happiness simply from just being. And that would be, it doesn't even need to be from gratitude. It doesn't need to be from like the ideas that we are commonly familiar with. It's for Buddhists, it's simply meditating. It's simply practicing stillness. And when you still the mind and quiet the mind, or they
So are they
are
talking
teaching,
satisfaction? Are they saying content? Like I'm trying to like when they say happiness, are they referring
it's
to
the
a const?
removal of suffering. It's the removal,
Is
yes, it's the
the
removal.
absence of angst?
That would be part of it. That's a consequence. So the removal, suffering is angst. So then yes. So it's the removal of suffering is really the goal. And so it's you strive to be still. Well, you first start, and this is all they really teach. This is like they distilled their teachings down to a very, very simple idea, which is find comfort. If you can get your body comfortable and just be comfortable, and not move, not go anywhere, not try and do anything, but just be comfortable. Eventually, your mind will be still. And once your mind is still, you begin to internally feel happy, which is the removal of suffering. You no longer feel
Is
suffering.
it
And this is,
satisfaction? Is it a positive feeling? I don't know if I would agree that
they would
happiness is the
suggest,
absence of something bad.
so yeah, so we have this relationship with happiness as like a very um like a responsive feeling, like you're responding to something with happiness. It's a very emotional feeling. Their definition of happiness, I think, is a little bit more of like base, like in the middle. Um, that is the goal, is like balance, right? You don't get swayed, and this is part of it. Like suffering comes from the volatility in emotions. It comes from the change, from the fears. It comes from I think the volatility. Might be my own now interpretation on top of it. I didn't ordain, I didn't study long enough
That's all
to
right.
really give you the deepest explanation. But
No,
my
I'm just curious.
understanding is,
I'm
and this is
asking. Yeah,
my
I'm asking from your
interpretation, is
perspective. Yeah.
happiness comes from, well, really suffering comes from a volatility in emotional state. So if something happens, you respond really positively, you're happy. Next moment, something else happens, you respond really negatively, you're unhappy. And that happens all day. And that
Okay.
happens both from things that are happening to you, people around you, substances you consume, relationships you have. All of these things create changes in your emotional state. Their teachings are to find a middle, balanced path, a way of being where you're no longer impacted by these circumstances, by troubling thoughts, by external discomforts, and also pleasures. So it's all of it, because anything that creates volatility would impact your constant.
So
Um,
do they? believe like what about the notion, or what are they, or what's the idea, I guess, or maybe what do you think the idea would be, that like if you don't feel negative, you can't feel positive. Like if you don't like you if you can't be sad, you can't be happy. If you can't be mad, you can't be, like whatever, like you can't be, if you can't be, I think that like when we experience emotions, generally it's because we have a range of different emotions from pleasant to unpleasant, and when we're not experiencing the negative one, the absence of it is positive. And would that mean that you're kind of just trying to silence everything and just like kind of just be without any kind of up and down, and again in that case, is that happiness?
So
It sounds like content. It sounds
it's
like
incorrect
peace.
because I can tell you that I've never met people who genuinely felt like, I don't mean looked or acted, but
Yeah,
felt happier than these monks. Like they smiled and laughed so much. Unexpected.
so
There was
beautiful.
so much
It's
humor,
such a beautiful thing to hear.
so much humor, so much laughing and like childlike, like in an innocent but not naive way.
Yeah,
Just a beautiful, they would smile, something would happen, like something technically goes wrong on the like with the microphone, and it's just like the first, like you just see this little smirk come over their like their face,
yeah.
and like they'll say a little joke, and they all have just these amazing senses of humor, and it carried through in like their broken English. I genuinely I know this to be true. I did a breathwork workshop after the meditation retreat, and well, even before, okay, just before that, I know 7 days I was there. We were well taken care of, well fed, good schedule, 4 or 5 hours of meditation every day, like just a little paradise, right? So obviously we're going to feel good. But I can tell you that despite having some really, really difficult thoughts and really, really difficult conversations with myself, I think primarily more than meditating, it was like a 7 day therapy session with myself.
Hmm.
But despite all of that, despite all of the pain in that, the discomfort rather, like I didn't feel sad for 7 days. I remember the feeling of sadness creep back in when I entered town the day after. Like I remember that feeling, and it feeling foreign but so familiar. And I didn't recognize that until after.
So
Um,
what's to stop people from living like that? What's to stop you from living like that?
so this is this is the goal. The goal is to take these learnings and to integrate them right into the daily life. And I found myself already improving, like doing things different. Um, like I've discovered in a very simple way how happiness is a choice. And we
Hmm.
talking about things like philosophizing, rationally explaining, discussing these ideas, and I think it's a very common thing. Like, don't worry, be happy, just put a smile on your face. Happiness is within. Like, these are nice to hear, and they all come from the right place. But to truly see something, you have to experience it, right? And experiencing the monks be in their natural state, experiencing the result of the efforts, like of the the head monk who put this place together, seeing the love and care and kindness and happiness that results in that, and seeing the 25 other participants blossom and come out of their shell from the first day to the seventh day, and all the friendships and bonds form, and all these people expressing. We've like went around in circles. We had group shares throughout the whole thing, and like hearing people express their internal experiences through meditating, and the thoughts they were having, the feelings they were having, the and seeing the result of that toward at the end, it's undeniable. Like you have to see it for yourself. And I'm sure everybody's experience is different, and every group experience is different. Um, every time you do it would be different. But seeing all that was like it was undeniable. There's no, it's so pure in its source. Like it's not like they're really just selling one thing. The one thing they were trying to instill in us is to be still.
So
Very, very simple
interesting.
concept. Very, very simple.
Wow.
And the evidence was there. Like like you saw the result was, it was very obvious. So I was going to say the day after, a few days after, I went and did a breathwork workshop. And I didn't reach a really deep state of meditation. There were some people there that were talking about like seeing things and you can do it. I mean, people meditate and they
Sure.
see
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
get into really, really deep states of bliss and can start seeing things. There's Buddhist monks like will apparently like speak to Buddha, and what that means, I'm not sure, but they get to these deep places in their minds where everything is just it's like different, and that's where they find what they call true happiness. It's a real experience inside. Well, I did a breathwork workshop, which kind of hijacks, like it's kind of like drugs in that you change the balance of CO2 and oxygen in your blood,
Hmm.
and you are changing your, it's like physiologically, you can actually create some of those same experiences
Right. Right.
very
Yes.
quickly. And a similar experience to like taking drugs, like shrooms, you can experience that with breath work. And I did it, and I felt actually the deepest state of meditation I've ever felt. My body was cramping up, and like I was having these physical reactions and feeling heat waves, and
Wow.
I
Was that
think your
incredible? Was that
cerebral.
uncomfortable, or was it odd to
It's
observe? Like,
uncomfortable. I mean, it was actually at a time painful. Like my calf cramped up and like was sore for hours after, and my got these crab hands where my hands kind of clench up and are squeezed tight. You can't control it, and you just have to ride it out. And I didn't mind it. I was expecting it. I was actually really excited for that experience. It seems like it feels like a superpower. It
mhm.
was awesome, and it's just through literally just like hyperventilating, inhaling, exhaling really quickly, doing these deep breaths. And you get this whole, your body goes numb and it's really wild. But
Wow.
hours later, I felt actually like poor, like negatively. I had like a come down. I didn't feel great. It didn't last. I didn't feel like happy throughout my day. In that moment, it was a wonderful experience. And I'll continue to do it because it feels like something that can open doors and like create a space to explore my mind and body. And also, I think just improve overall, just improving my breathing would be pretty neat. But the meditation, like if I show up to a meditation for an hour in the morning, it changes the whole trajectory of my day. Like I find it's the slow burn rather than like the trying to take steroids and rush the process. It's the slow burn. And you can't get as deep as quick, and you can't get as intense of an experience as easily. But I find that so far, at least in my exploration, that slow burn is A, more sustainable, and B, more true. Like there's something that speaks to me about the truth, and that's the pursuit I'm on currently is understanding what is true happiness for me. Like I can have a cup of coffee in the morning and feel wonderful, and then in the afternoon I come down and I feel awful. And which state is the true Yosef? Which state is the true state of being?
Why
And
do you feel like they're not both?
mm, I think they are both true experiences, but I guess which is like true, which one is truer about my reality? Like is my interpretation of reality is true in both scenarios, but which one is the true, the more representative interpretation? And like there's that, and then just I feel like if I have to depend on coffee for happiness, or have to depend on external validation or something, then it puts into question whether that happiness is like it puts that happiness into question in my mind.
Right.
It
I
puts that
totally got that.
experience
Sure.
is too fragile. It's not a real thing. It's a
Well, because
temporary,
it's
ephemeral,
contingent on something that you can't control.
right? And that doesn't sit right with me. Um,
I'm with you.
it's like,
I totally agree with you.
and so I'm on this quest. I'm currently not drinking coffee, not drinking alcohol, not like doing almost any, like I'm abstaining from a lot of the things that otherwise I don't think I overindulge in, but like they bring me joy, and I will enjoy a beer, and I do look forward to a cup of coffee. But I'm not doing any of that now because I'm trying to find that baseline, that middle path that is Yosef, that constant. And then this cup of coffee is a deviation from the middle path. And that's okay once I know what that baseline Yosef is. But until I do, I'm removing the volatility so that I can find the baseline and then know when I am in a volatile state, either really happy or really sad, or even just a little bit. I know what I will return to. Because it's like if I don't know what I'm returning to, or if I'm constantly in this in this volatile state, then I'm not really sure where who I am in that. And that to me
So
is important. It's an important quest. And I'm finding that meditation is an inquiry into that, and not just an inquiry into where my baseline is, but it's also a process in which to gradually improve my baseline into a higher place of being a high more happiness, rather than doing a breath work, increasing my happiness by a ton, and then it returning to either a baseline
baseline
or
or
responding
lower,
to the
yeah.
next variable, the next volatility. I'd rather gradually discovering and increasing my baseline.
Right. Do you think that feeling as though you understand your purpose, like what you're here to do and what you're meant to do, and internalizing that, do you think that that would be sufficient to be happy? And then you could continue to, like, for example, right? Like, I really feel like I really feel like an enormous part of my purpose is to create relationships and to help and to hear people express themselves and to express myself and to kind of encourage that growth and expression, right? Like, I really, everything that I've always been interested in my entire life has always revolved around that, you know. And so and I would get down when I would try to look for ways to live that didn't you know that didn't have that at its core. It didn't have like self-expression and sharing at its core. And now that and you know, and like, you know, I did I'm going to be recording them tomorrow, but I met with a guy who was a musician last week or 2 weeks ago, and you know, we sat and we talked for an hour and a half, and a total stranger. I reached out to him, I cold emailed him. He didn't know who I was. He agreed to meet up with me for a coffee and talk about like his experience as a musician and as a teacher. And we sat and we talked for an hour and a half, and it was just like the best conversation. The conversation went as good as it could go, and I walked away and I was like, I literally feel like I'm like that was like what I was meant to do with my life, you know. And and that feeling of, so this is now what like this is what I should direct it became so clear to me that this is what I have to direct, what I have to direct my efforts towards in order to for it to be fruitful, for my life to feel like I'm living it honestly and like in the best way that I could, you know. Um, that to me was like a moment of like really intense happiness. Like, it was intense satisfaction, meaning, um, you know, fulfillment in the sense that that I created a new relationship and my time was valuably spent, and now I know that about myself to help achieve that state of happiness, you know, that will hopefully lead to a better life. Do you think that? Do you think you have that with yourself? Do you know what? Do you think that's what that's what part of the happiness is? Like, when the stillness comes, it's you just discovered, you know, who you are and what you're left with, or you think it's just being comfortable being still and like that's where the happiness is? Do you need
Yeah,
an
that's
answer? Is
cool.
what I'm asking.
Yo, yeah, that's I think the I'm a puzzle solver, and so I find myself trying to solve puzzles even when meditating or while trying to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal is not to seek answers. The point is that if Buddha sat in the top of a monastery on top of a mountain for what, like I think it was 15 years or something. I don't remember.
Okay.
Didn't need anything. And that's I think the the goal. But for me, I also think that there's a strong desire and need for purpose. I don't couldn't tell you exactly what that is for me yet. But I think that currently it's finding the most authentic way to be myself, and purpose will kind of show
But
itself.
you've been authentically yourself for years. Like, I feel like you're not someone that often compromises on like you don't have a very do you you don't strike me as a person that has a very high tolerance for things that you don't feel are yourself.
Mm,
and because you're not attached to a lot of those things, it's you don't have to like, you don't have to make those sacrifices to be those things that you're not, and you don't usually do that. Like
mm,
you live the most you life of almost anyone I know. You know,
mm,
you don't feel
mm.
that way.
Maybe in many ways, yes. I think that I still
There's ways to go.
there's ways. Maybe this is why I live that way, is because it's so important to me, and it's because it's so important to me, I'm not entirely satisfied. But
Hmm.
I think that there's still like
Are
pieces
you
of
looking
me
for
that
satisfaction?
I think what I look for changes, but part of what I look for is actually just like, stillness, like lack of speaking. I don't know. I don't think that there's ever like complete quiet unless you really commit to a practice like being a monk. But I think that there's always going to be wants and things, but I'm happy with that. I think I have a lot of ambition, a lot of drive and curiosities and things that I want to explore. That doesn't
Do, yeah.
that doesn't bother me.
Do you think ambition is antithetical to stillness?
I'm not sure. It's a good question.
Like, if you have, like, do these monks not have ambition because they're content and happy? So therefore,
No,
they've
they
kind of
do. No, they do because they have ambition, but they have non-attachment to the outcome. So the the um the head monk, he started his monk career, so to speak, sent to a mountain village out in the middle of nowhere for 15 years. He helped build schools and teach Buddhism and meditation to the children and improved the agriculture and like restored forests. He was just doing like amazing work out in the middle of nowhere. No cell phone, no cell phone
reception. Yeah,
service, like no tools, everything really, really like difficult living in a hut. But he just did his best for 15 years. Then decided it was time, or he was instructed that it was time to like share his teachings with an international audience. And so he decided to set up this meditation center. And he found this land and got the land, and it looked nothing like it does now. And for 3 years, him and one other monk just started working the land to put it together. They
that's
didn't have the money,
crazy.
they didn't have the team, but they just started working on it. And the land flooded the first 2 years, and they just kept going. And now it looks like a multi-million dollar facility. Beautiful landscaping, beautiful architecture. They have a hot spring resort there. They're growing all their own food that they feed us in their organic farm, greenhouse. They have multiple ponds that they've like just cultivated, and the facilities are just unbelievably beautiful. And all the like volunteers and people who work there are incredibly happy and grateful and happy. And it shows like the love is pouring, and the love and hard work and dedication is pouring out of the place.
Yeah,
But when we
yeah.
asked
It's
him, the
amazing how
abbot,
tangible that is, isn't it? Isn't it incredible how
so
tangible that is?
so tangible, but like he couldn't have seen the result. He could have only just worked at it. And when we asked him, he's the abbot. That's what head monk is called, I suppose. Yeah, I guess. And when we asked him, like, was there ever a moment where you were scared that it wouldn't work out, or you were worried, or like, how did you deal with the insecurities of not being sure, and how did you stay committed? His answer was just like, and it was through translation, and the translator was like, "You're not gonna like this," but he just said no. Like he knew he was doing his best, and so he just
Yeah,
continued to do that.
that's amazing.
And
I I feel that
most
I
people have
feel
a doubt.
I think I feel that way about my life.
That's amazing. I feel you're doing the right thing then. That's amazing.
Like, I feel
I'm
like
glad for
I'm
you.
doing the best I can. I feel like yeah, but I have a like one of my big I don't know what I don't know whether, and I'm sure this has an impact because intentions always have an impact. I'm driven by a fear of dying, of being on the verge of death or dying and not feeling like I did everything I could with the life that I've had. like that's something that I'm very, very conscious of, and I'm always afraid. I'm always thinking about, and I'm always afraid that I'm just wasting my potential and wasting my time, and so I really, really push myself, but I find I usually push myself too far and then have to crash and recharge my batteries a little bit and then do it again, and my stamina is usually a little better after at a certain point. But I don't feel
Hmm.
like I feel like short of like one or two small things in my life, I'm living exactly like I'm so happy with every minute, you know. And it took you know, I mean, it's conscious. It takes work. I've worked years to be happy, you know.
Hmm.
It's really hard to
Yeah,
do.
that's really beautiful. Makes me very happy to hear that for you. I'm
Yeah,
jealous. Not actually, I'm not jealous, but I should rather
you're,
say I
you're
strive to
wistful.
do the same. I'm wishful for that as well. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing. It's really beautiful. And um I guess
I'm
the
often
like the
swept up
last
with it.
missing piece, you're swept
Like
up with it?
I will several times a week just be overcome with an experience, the sensation of I'm just so happy to be me.
Mm. That's great.
I think so. I mean, I think it's a combination of luck and an enormous amount of hard work, because
Yeah,
the
I mean,
process itself is
you're a
exhausting.
proactive person. Like you weren't gonna just sit back and let life tell you how to be. I mean, you've been very active and you've done a lot of you've made a lot of like challenging decisions and made a lot of effort to be the best version of yourself and discover more about yourself and what is important to you. And yeah, I don't think this is the result of just everything worked out well for me. But you did, of course, know when to act and when to embrace the good luck and the opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't be anywhere without. I listen. I, just to be born into the family I was freaking born into. You know, just to have my gene, just to have my childhood, just to have just to have the opportunities that I have. Like, I have so much gratitude for every aspect of my life. I really do. Like I know that that I could have very easily been dealt a very different hand. I would have been, that would have been really, really, really difficult. And I just I feel, and that appreciation helps me be kind to other people. Like it makes me want to pass it forward.
Yeah, nice.
So you're in Thailand now.
I am. But I was just actually going to say is that I think that would be a really nice place to wrap on that because
Yes,
that's
let's wrap.
a beautiful
Let's
point.
wrap. How long? Wait, so you're in Thailand for another 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
I yeah, the 11th, so about 2, 3 weeks. I can't do the math right now.
Are you gonna be sad to
11th
leave
of February.
before you go?
I don't think I'll be sad to leave. I think I'll be, I'll be ready to leave, but I know I'll return.
Right. Right. Of
I know I'll
course.
return. And I've this is something nice actually, is I've been finding a lot easier to not attach to the good things, the good interactions, that like just knowing that there are always nice things around the corner and it's it's okay to experience a good thing and let it go.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. Dude, thank you so much for doing this, man. Thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And also, I'm so happy to talk to you. I just love talking to you. So I really appreciate it, dude. And I want to hear off air what's going on after, but let's wrap this up right now. And thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. I love
Of
talking to
course,
you.
I love talking with you. I do
All right,
wish
brother.
that we can do it the other way around sometimes so that I can just listen to you for the hour instead of
We
just
could do that,
myself.
dude. You could do that.
All right. Sounds good.
We'll make it happen, dude. I can't wait. All right, dude. Thank you so much for doing this. Bye, everyone.